Khamzat Chimaev will beat Dricus Du Plessis at UFC 319, and in this video, I will explain to you why. So with Max Holloway beating Dustin Poirier last night at UFC 318, the next pay-per-view on the schedule for us to watch is UFC 319, August 16th in Chicago. And it will be Khamzat Chimaev versus Dricus Du Plessis for the middleweight championship. This is Khamzat's first time fighting for a championship in the UFC, and he's been undefeated since coming into the UFC. Now we know Dricus is on a great win streak in the middleweight division as well, with opponents like Sean Strickland twice, Robert Whittaker, Israel Adesanya, and more. He has a good resume going for himself right now with a lot of wins. However, I believe his winning streak will stop at UFC 319 against Khamzat Chimaev. So getting right into the first point, it is a bad stylistic matchup for Dricus Du Plessis. Dricus Du Plessis is a well-rounded fighter. He could do all of it. He has decent ground game, solid striking, and he has a crazy style that you can't really prepare for. So that might sound to you guys like this is good for Dricus Du Plessis. He could fight all types of opponents, which he can. However, the problem is when he runs into a high-level wrestler like Khamzat Chimaev, he doesn't specialize enough in any one area to have a definitive advantage over Khamzat Chimaev. Khamzat Chimaev is a decent enough striker, and he's a very big, strong wrestler. Fighting someone like Dricus Du Plessis, who doesn't have as good of wrestling, he's not going to be able to hang with him. We saw this well with Robert Whittaker. Robert Whittaker is also a very well-balanced fighter. He's a solid wrestler. However, he could not hang with Khamzat Chimaev. Khamzat Chimaev did submit Robert Whittaker in the first round, and it is very likely that he will do something similar to Dricus Du Plessis. I believe it will be a submission finish within the first 3 rounds, and if it goes to a scorecard, I do think Khamzat Chimaev will win by decision. However, I do think the fight ends before the scorecards. I'll put the screenshot on the screen right here. If you look back at one of Dricus's fights, he has this random style to him. And he went for a takedown against one of his opponents in the past who is nowhere near as good as Khamzat Chimaev. And he messed up the takedown and he threw himself into bottom position. If he does that like a Khamzat Chimaev, that is immediately game over. Now obviously Dricus Du Plessis has gotten better since that fight, but it is not to a level where you can wrestle with the Khamzat Chimaev. You see the same thing with fighters like Islam Makhachev or Khabib Nurmagomedov. When you have a wrestler that is that good, it's very tough to beat him. You have to get a lucky knockout or you have to somehow beat him by decision, because there's no way that you're just going to grapple with him. You saw this with Kamaru Usman too. Kamaru Usman was a very dominant champ in his prime, and the reason he lost was due to a lucky head kick to Leon Edwards, which spiked this whole downfall of Kamaru Usman. However, this plays perfectly into my next point, because the win over Kamaru Usman is aging perfectly well for Khamzat Chimaev. And real quick, if you guys have not subscribed yet, a free way to support this channel would be to subscribe. We're on the way to 900 subscribers, so if you subscribe now, when we're a huge channel in the future, you could look back and be like, I was with that community from the start. I'm a day 1 member, under 1,000 subs, and that'd be pretty cool. But let's get right back into the video. That is right, Khamzat Chimaev's win over Kamaru Usman is aging beautifully. Everyone was saying at the time, Usman's washed. It was a 3-round war. Like, it should have been a draw. If it was any longer, Khamzat would have lost. A lot of those points might be valid, but at the end of the day, it was a dominant first round, and he did still win the fight. And looking at Kamaru Usman since, he just beat Joaquin Buckley very decisively last month. And Joaquin Buckley is one of the best fighters at 170 right now. He had crazy momentum. He's great in all areas. And Kamaru Usman showed him that there's levels to this game. And he showed that he is still one of the best fighters in the UFC and one of the best wrestlers. And Khamzat Chimaev was able to dominate him. Now, how do you think Khamzat Chimaev is going to do against Dricus Du Plessis, who is nowhere near the level of wrestler as Kamaru Usman? It's going to be a wrap for Dricus. And I like Dricus. He's a cool guy. I have nothing against him. But there's just no way he's going to be able to hang with Khamzat Chimaev. And people are like, oh, cardio this, cardio that. If this fight goes past the first or second round, Dricus Du Plessis' cardio is going to be way better than Khamzat's, and he's going to beat him. But that's just not true. We've never seen Khamzat Chimaev in a 5-round fight, so we can't say how his cardio will be in the 4th and 5th rounds. And people are like, oh, you started gassing out against Usman. Like I just said, Usman's one of the best wrestlers in the UFC of all time, so you can't really use that as a gripe, saying that Khamzat Chimaev looked tired against Usman. Anybody would look tired against Usman. Usman is a great fighter, and Khamzat Chimaev beat him. But going into my next point, in most of Dricus Du Plessis' fights, he has a size and strength advantage. Dricus Du Plessis does stand at 6 foot in the middleweight division, but Khamzat Chimaev is 6'2". Khamzat Chimaev is a massive UFC fighter, and people don't think about this. And we've seen in all the fights past, Khamzat has this strength advantage. You know that those wrestlers have a different strength to them than your normal fighters. Now, all UFC fighters are obviously some of the strongest people on the planet. However, when you're a wrestler, you have that different level of strength where you could literally manhandle somebody. And Khamzat Chimaev is going to have that advantage over Dricus Du Plessis. He's a bigger fighter in stature, and he's going to be the stronger fighter when it it comes to wrestling, which is immediately where this fight's going to go. Khamzat Chimaev's not going to sit here and have a 5-round striking battle with Dricus. He's going to wrestle him, and he's going to submit him because Dricus is not technical enough to survive 5 rounds of Khamzat Chimaev's wrestling. He's going to make a mistake at some point. Khamzat Chimaev is way too high level to where he's going to take advantage of that and win the fight. And then we know a big thing in the past that was a problem for Khamzat Chimaev has unfortunately been his health. However, we've not had any health concerns from Khamzat lately. He's been healthy for a while now. He hasn't pulled out of a fight in a minute. So it looks like this is not a concern for Khamzat, and he's been able to train. It looks like moving up to 185 really did help his health overall. The weight cuts are nowhere near as bad as they used to be for him, which is a big thing, just getting this guy fighting and staying healthy so he can train consistently and be the best version of himself. And then the final point, everyone's going to talk about the plot armor of DDP. Well, Khamzat literally has the same. This guy's beaten all sorts of illnesses and still fighting, and he's looking amazing. He's still undefeated in the UFC against some of the best fighters in the division. And so all those reasons are why Khamzat Chimaev will beat Dricus Du Plessis at UFC 319. If you agreed with any of the points in this video, let me know by subscribing or liking the video. If you disagreed, let me know in the comments, and I'm sure people will talk about it. With that being said, I'll see you guys in the next one. Deuces.